YouTube, this is your girl Megan from the Hood Astro Queen. Welcome back to my channel to all my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, welcome. It is here that we use information from celestial bodies to help us gain a better understanding of our favorite celebrities, world events, but most importantly, our damn selves. So thumbs up this video, share with a friend, and subscribe to become a part of the family. If you are interested in booking your very own natal chart reading, feel free to contact me at Astro World. That's Astro WERLD at gmail.com, and we can get you squared away on today. I do have a fall special going on for the next few weeks, limited time only. So if you like what you see, feel free to take advantage of this special. Now, today I am coming to you guys once more with yet another celebrity birth chart reading, this time on rapper Silento. Now, Silento is the guy who made the Watch Me Whip, Watch Me Nay Nay song. He's a one-hit wonder, if you will, but I can't lie, the song had the entire world in the chokehold, especially all the kids around 2016, 2015, that era, right? And because of how big this single was and how overnight and sudden his rise to fame was, a lot of people expected his career to take a certain trajectory. He was taking meetings with some of the biggest record execs in the industry. I believe he was offered quite a few record deals. He did quite a few shows, talk show appearances, the whole shebang. However, his life took a sharp left turn, honey, after he was booked and charged for the shooting death of his older cousin. Now, obviously, this was very random and shocking to a lot of people, but those closest to Silento actually acclaimed that this was a manifestation of an ongoing problem, and that ongoing problem being his mental health issues. And when I did a little digging, a little research of my own, I noticed that he had taken to several platforms to speak about his mental health before as well. But according to the family, his mental health had been deteriorating very rapidly, especially after his sudden thrust into stardom and fame. And so, of course, you do have some people who feel like his family is just making excuses for him and that he should be held accountable. And then you have other people who feel like, yeah, he should be held accountable as well, but he is also the poster child for a growing issue, which would be the mental health crisis within the Black community, but especially amongst Black boys and men. So I wanted to take a look at his natal chart just to put these things into more of an astrological context and to see if these mental health issues are in fact apparent. Of course, because that's what we do here, right? So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Now, Silento was born January 22nd, 1998. In Stone Mountain, Georgia, placing his son at the second degree of Aquarius, which in and of itself can indicate an estranged relationship with family or someone who could have a very unusual or disjointed kind of family dynamic or relationship with family members, especially considering the number 2 does deal with family. And in terms of his moon sign, Silento could either be a later degree Scorpio moon or early degree Sagittarius moon. And based on just this entire situation, Scorpio moon would be more fitting, especially considering that the moon in Scorpio could often produce a very tormented being, a person who could have a lot of personality disorders, a lot of emotional disturbances. They could be tormented by demonic spirits or even possessed at times, which sounds a lot more dramatic than what it really is, because a lot of people actually are possessed or have demonic entities attached to them every day and don't even really realize it. Different story for a different day. But this could definitely manifest in just a huge amount of emotional and psychological problems. These are people who can even undergo meltdowns, or they can go into like psychosis and blackout, which makes a lot of sense considering the nature of the crime that he was accused of. especially with his Chiron conjoined to his Scorpio moon, as this could be a very homicidal aspect, especially as family is concerned. This could even be a suicidal aspect, which I found to be interesting because it was documented a while back while he was speaking on his mental health. I think he even went on to like a talk show called The Therapist or something like that. And he was basically revealing that there are times where he wants to commit suicide. And so, although this may not necessarily be the case for every single Scorpio moon, right? But the fact that his moon is conjoined to Chiron really does intensify and magnify the situation. These are people who could have suffered a tremendous amount of pain, a tremendous amount of abuse, especially when you consider the fact that Chiron is also known as the wounded healer. It's areas where we are wounded, where we sustain a lot of injury. And this could be physical injury, but it could also be emotional and, once again, psychological. Scorpio is the sign of psychology. So these are people who can be really twisted and demented and could have a lot of deeply rooted issues, like issues. And for all intents and purposes, that Scorpio moon conjoined to Chiron is a ticking time bomb kind of aspect. All of that emotional baggage, all of those spirits, all of those, really dense emotions and things that these people are going through tend to bubble up to the surface, and they can be dangerously destructive to themselves, to other people. I've seen this in the charts of people who could even do things like self-harm, cutting, but also they can be very just deviant minded people, or people who kind of look to inflict pain upon other people as well. Chiron, in aspect to any personal planet, is naturally going to produce a person who may have a difficult time really just being a part of society. And so when you include it, or when you place it in a sign like Scorpio and make it conjoined to the moon, it honestly, I'm surprised that this situation didn't happen sooner. I'm surprised that he's actually still alive, because this is like a really telling and loaded aspect. Now, you could also look at this aspect as being symbolic of the type of environment that he grew up in. Some of these people could have grown up in a very criminal oriented kind of environment, which I think was the case for Silento. Feel free to provide more clarity in the comments. But that makes sense too. And these people can also be very criminally minded themselves. This could also even point towards him having a very dysfunctional relationship with family, where themes such as jealousy, hatred, resentment, these are all very much a part of the package, which I also watched a documentary on Silento, and it was stated that after he became famous, those themes and those issues did arise in a lot of the relationship that he had with his family. His moon is also squaring his Mars in the sign of Aquarius, as well as his Jupiter. Okay, he has his Mars conjoined to Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius. And the square that these are making to that Scorpio moon could deal with shocking events involving the family, but it could also further reinforce this kind of hostile or strange or just unexplainable sense of emotional stability, where these people are liable to outbursts, where they're very unpredictable. But to be honest with you, in that same vein of abuse, it does have me questioning certain things in terms of the nature of the abuse that Silento could have undergone. Now, this is purely speculative on my part, but this, especially his Aquarius Mars squaring that Scorpio moon, could be very symbolic of someone who could have undergone sexual trauma. But I'm going to leave that there. Okay, we're not going to go all deep off into that theory, because I think you guys already know where that leads. But his Mercury is in the sign of Capricorn, which in and of itself can produce lots of depression which is something else he was very vocal about. The fact that he had depression. And to make it even worse, his Mercury is squaring his Saturn in Aries. So that's kind of like a double dose, as Mercury squaring Saturn is also a depressive aspect. And it points to where, especially with his Saturn in Aries, he could become very reckless when he gets into these kind of moods or modes where he could just be someone who has a difficult time enacting or practicing self-control. It can make him very difficult, very volatile, and specifically because Mercury does deal with cousins, right? Mercury in Capricorn could even deal with the influence of older cousins. The fact that it's squaring his Saturn in Aries could absolutely implicate him in this shooting death of his older cousin, allegedly, right? Mercury squaring Saturn in Aries could deal with a person who could have a very adversarial relationship with siblings or cousins. This could be someone who fights a lot, but Saturn in Aries can produce a lot of issues in regards to guns and knives. So these are people who could be shooting victims themselves or who could be very well capable of shooting someone else. This also reinforces this sense of destructiveness that Silento has, especially when it comes to driving. Mercury also deals with cars, which he actually had a former run-in with the police due to, I think it was like reckless driving or speeding, which is very much parallel with this aspect. These are people who could make just crazy decisions on the road, like whether it be like road rage, speeding, things like that. It could also deal with where maybe he's also had very violent interactions with the law, which he has also complained about. I think he alleged that some police officers actually spat on him during an encounter. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if it went both ways, because he's someone who could even have a difficult time respecting authority in the traditional sense, where, like I said, he could just really lack self-control. Now, one of the most telling placements within Silento's chart is this Pisces South Node. He has Pisces at the 12th degree, which, mind you, is the degree of victimization and sacrifice placed on the South Node, which could deal with his musical interests, dreams, or him just having this strong sense of artistry, which on a more positive note is definitely something that he benefited from. And with his Jupiter conjoined to Mars in Aquarius, this is responsible for him being such a viral sensation on the internet. It also deals with him being a part of a group, and I think he was. I don't know if Watch Me With, Watch Me Nay Nay was a single that group dropped. I don't know if he made the song individually, but I know at some point he was a part of a group. And a lot of Mars, Aquarius individuals, especially conjoined to Jupiter, a lot of their success usually tends to come by way of other people, right? These are people who may not necessarily be the most talented people themselves, but they're able to surround themselves and immerse themselves and put themselves in situations where they can kind of benefit from what other people have going on. I think about the Drakes, and yes, y'all can argue me down on that one. I don't think Drake is really that talented. I mean, he may have some talent, but, clearly he surrounds himself with a lot of people, and they're responsible for his magic to a large degree. Same thing with, I think Young Miami is an Aquarius Mars. Don't quote me, but that's also very fitting. Sis doesn't have any talent at all, but she definitely is always in the right place at the right time, surrounded by the right people. I ain't mad at it. I digress. This Pisces South Node could also indicate a lot of karmic debt tied to mental health, as well as mental health issues. This is actually one of the biggest lunar nodal placements in terms of mental health problems that could create lots of mental health disparities. These are people who could come up close and personal with other people with mental health issues, but for some, they can be plagued with their own as well. This could also deal with him being on medication. A lot of these people could self-medicate, which is why Pisces South Nodes, not all of them, once again, but a lot of them, especially if other parts of their chart is afflicted, can be just ramping drug addicts or alcoholics or can struggle with addiction of some kind. And I actually read somewhere that he was born with drugs in his system because his mother obviously was on drugs. And with your South Node also dealing with your early life conditioning, it could even to a certain extent explain the conditions surrounding past life experiences, but also, experiences while you were in your mother's womb, right? Conditions surrounding your birth. Now, a lot of people also refer to that as like the ascendant, or say that your ascendant can deal with these things as well, which is true. It's not false. But when you think about the South Node, which naturally has a lot of lunar influence, it could say a lot about the condition you were brought up in, right? How you got here. It can have a lot to do with the experiences that one has with their mother and their family, because all of that is a part of their early life conditioning. So it makes sense that he was a drug baby. It could also deal with where his grip on reality can be very, very loose. These are people who are definitely subject to have breaks from reality, which for obvious reasons is a problem. It could also deal with where he could spend lots of time in prison. A lot of these people also may even have to be admitted into some type of institution or facility, even if it's like rehab or whatever the case may be, or in some cases, psych wards. Which, if you ask me, especially if he really is, which I definitely think that he is, suffering from mental health issues, I think it would be more beneficial for him to be in a place where he can receive actual treatment. Because as a Virgo North Node, he has to learn how to, come up with some kind of like medication, or where maybe, he could take some helpful medication that could help him and further assist in his rehabilitation, so that he can integrate back into society. Maybe while he's in prison or jail or somewhere, he can learn a trade. But I think specifically he needs to be somewhere where he can get like some serious medical attention. Also, he has his Neptune at the 29th degree, which could even further work to his detriment, as this could also reinforce this theme of mental and emotional disturbances, but also major issues with family. That 29th degree can bring a lot of problem with family. And it also reinforces this theme of institutionalization, especially with him also having his sun conjoined to Neptune. That's another aspect that's really big in the charts of druggies, but also people who cannot stay out of prison, people who may have a really difficult time, being upright and walking the straight and narrow, which, mind you, as a Virgo North Node, he needs. Now, this could also be very indicative of him not having a father in his life, a solid father figure. And as a Pisces South Node, this is also very fitting because these people can also struggle with abandonment issues. And also, I can't stress enough the type of disassociative effect that Neptune in contact with personal planets can have. And with him being a Pisces South Node, once again, this could be even more detrimental, as these are people who can experience regular breaks from reality. It kind of even gives me schizophrenic vibes, or where these people can have like delusions and things like that. And I'm no doctor, of course. So, they say he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but, who the fuck am I? I'm just an astrologer with an opinion. But either way it goes, I could definitely see him, just imagining things, or, situations where his imagination is running wild, especially with his moon conjoined the Chiron like that. And then when you add these Neptunian afflictions, it has to be tough. I actually feel really bad for the kid. This Pisces South Node could also make him very impressionable. Same thing with his Sun and Venus. He has his Venus conjoined to Neptune as well. His Venus is at the 22nd degree of Capricorn. So it's like he could even be someone where it's like maybe a lot of his more criminal tendencies and instincts were triggered by the people he was around. Like, you never really know with these people. And although it would be nice if he could get some real help and actually be rehabilitated, I'm also questioning his willingness to even accept or receive the help, especially considering that his Mercury is squaring Saturn in Aries like that. These are people who, once again, could just be really, really hard-headed, or they could just have a really hard time when it comes to accepting or dealing with other people, or even like punishment. A lot of times that's why they receive punishment and correction and could get into trouble with the law, because these are people who are hell bent or doing things their way. Now, maybe as he gets older, he can learn to kind of work with the square and maybe overcome it if he really wants to, I guess. But he's always going to have, just based on his chart, the odds stacked against him. And that's really unfortunate. Some people are really dealt a messed up hand. And it's not necessarily to make these people evade accountability, which is another really big byproduct of that Pisces South Node. A lot of these people can be spoiled, sheltered, coddled. Maybe they have a difficult time accepting responsibility for themselves. Same thing with his sun and Venus conjoined in Neptune. It's very easy for these people to kind of make excuses for themselves or pass the buck. So he should definitely be held accountable. That's actually a part of his karma in this lifetime. A lot of Virgo North nodes are meant to be humbled. You know, they have to learn that they're not the exception to the rules. You're not special, cupcake. You need to be held accountable, and you need some type of corrective enforcement or corrective measures to make sure you're held accountable. But more importantly, his health, his mental health needs to be tended to. And like I said, if he's not someone who's open to taking medications, he should seriously and strongly consider that as a Virgo North node. I could also see him experiencing some complications from the medication, especially with his Saturn in Aries, forming a quincunx to that Virgo North node. For some of these people, certain medications could result in like seizures and things like that. So it could definitely be trial and error. And if you are someone who has experienced issues with mental health to the point where you've been prescribed medication, a lot of people know that it is a trial and error kind of thing. Like, you don't always get the correct medication the first go round. This quincunx could also just further reinforce him being someone who could just be very difficult. Even behind bars, I would imagine that he's having a difficult time, as these could be people who could, get into it with the correctional officers and, people who just, while they're in there, they're not really open-minded enough to receive the correction and correct course. But the good news is that quincunxes only require a certain level of adjustment, you know what I mean, where he just needs to learn how to straighten up and fly right. And that, once again, could be something that hopefully could come with age. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and conclude my video here. I just wanted to unpack some more of what Silento had going on. So y'all drop down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. And yeah, make sure you practice unconditional self-love so that you can love others. And I'll catch y'all in the next video. Bye.